Palden Save Lama Rinpoche Dage Chiwo Pende Den Shula Kaden Chempe Gone Jesunte Kusung Doje Ngadu Sadu Sa Sanje Chedang Soji Chonam La Shancho Badu Dane Chapsuji Dage Jinso Jipe Sunamji Chola Penje Sanje Dupashur Sanje Chudang Soji Chonamla Shancho Badu Dane Chapsuji Dage Jinso Jipe Sunamji Chola Penje Sanje Dupashur Sanje Chudang Soji Chonamla Shanjo Badu Dane Chapsuji Dage Jinso Jipe Sunamji Chola Penje Sanje Dupashur Semchen Tamje Deva Dan Deve Judan Den Pa Jujik Dunga Dan Dunga Ji Judan Dalwa Jujik Dungal Mepe Dewa Nampa Dan Mindalwa Jujik Nyering Chadan Dan Dalwe Tonyom Chempola Nepa Jujik Semjen Tamje Dewa Dan Deve Judan Den Pa Jujik Dunga Dan Dunga Ji Judan Dalwa Jujik Dungal Mepe Dewa Dampa Dan Mindalwa Jujik Nyering Chadan Dan Dalwe Tonyom Chempola Nepa Jujik Semchen Tamje Dewa Dan Deve Judan Den Pa Jujik Dunga Dan Dunga Ji Judan Dalwa Jujik Dungal Mepe Dewa Dampa Dan Mindalwa Jujik Nyering Chadan Dan Dalwe Tonyom Chempola Nepa Jujik Ning To Chempe Payo Len Mantra Lodra Chempe Chukun Denisi Drupa Chempe Chamdro Chiantan Losa Chempe Shabla Solvandev Ngutu Chempe Kunda Seneche Kaje Chempe Lama Nyepaze Sundru Chempe Drupe Jasensur Repa Chempe Shabla Solvandev Tekpa Chempe Rikcho Yonsu Se Shaja Chempe Topang Undujo Tinle Chempe Kada Nyampadal Nigom Chempe Solvandev Dampa Namla Gupe Satabju Drubju Tensen Chonam Shabden Chin Tenpa Rinchen Choju Jepadang Jikteng Gele Chempe Chapasho Jewa Kuntu Yanda Lamadang Drame Chuji Pala Lon Chujing Sadang Lamchi Yanten Rapsone Doje Change Gopanyo Tosho. So good morning, everybody. Good morning, and good to see you here for the second part of this introduction to meditation, or how to start meditating. This is like the basics of how, what do you do, what are the main points that you need to be familiar with in order to learn to meditate, in order to be able to meditate. So I'm really glad that you're here this morning to then we'll finish the course there, and it's of course very, very short. It's a really short course, but we felt that there should be something there for you to at least get started. So last time we covered a few things, right? So just to remind you, we covered the function. I talked to you about the function of meditation, the definition of meditation. Don't hold on to the past. Don't invite the future. Don't solidify the present. The function of meditation, of being able to settle the mind in the present moment, because we are so agitated. We are always somewhere else. We are never really present, fully present. I talked about mindfulness, using mindfulness and awareness on the breath. I talked about not identifying with thoughts. So shine, the basic idea of shine, resting the mind in peace or tranquility, developing inner calm and tranquility. And I talked about, we used shine as shine with the breath as a focus. We did the short session, right? And I talked about the time to meditate, dawn and dusk, but basically whenever is suitable for your own schedule and time and environment. And then we talked about the length of the session for a beginner, like many short sessions are better than few long sessions. And I did mention to you also about it might be suitable for you to join our online meditation as a support. Now that you're learning how to meditate, then to give you some structure and support, then 5 days a week we have half an hour meditation here that you can join online on our YouTube session. So these were the points, just to remind you what we did, and what I'm planning to cover today then is, we talk about the supports for meditation is the environment. How do we then try to make sure that I, as a beginner, can do the best, have the best opportunity and environment and possibility of continuing this meditation. So we want to look at that, the outer and inner environment. Then I want to look at, also explain to you, because I said that last time there was shine with the breathing, shine with an outer object, shine with an inner object. So briefly to touch about what does that mean, meditation with an outer object and with an inner object, and maybe to explain to you about walking meditation a little bit, just touching on that, and also about what are the obstacles for meditation. What are the difficulties that most people experience? Because everybody has trouble meditating. Everybody experiences distraction, right? Distraction is huge for us. We have so much opportunity. Our mind is constantly stimulated. Our mind is encouraged to be distracted, actually, in society, material society. We are encouraged to get involved with this and that, whereas this is the opposite of what we're trying to do in meditation. We're trying to learn how to direct our mind so our mind is able to stay with what we want it to stay with. If we wanted to stay with this object, with that object, with this particular thing, or with that study, with that work, we're capable to focus on that. We're capable to be in the present when we want to be in the present. We're capable of engaging with a topic when we want to engage with a topic. It's sort of that idea. This will benefit us a lot. So when you talk about how to support your meditation, how to support it both in your daily life and in your session, like creating a bridge. We say, life in the 21st century, people living in London, they have very, very busy lives. You go to work, you have a family, you have a social life, you have to level out all these things, to balance all these things, to get harmony and to have a right sort of attention to each of these areas, even though of course now maybe during COVID, in some sense, certain of these things are less busy than they were before. Maybe you have less of a social life. Maybe you don't go to the work. Maybe you work from home, so you don't have to travel and commute. Maybe you go out shopping less than you did before. So in some sense, simplicity might be a benefit for your meditation, depending how you apply yourself. But this is like now the current situation we're living in is slightly different than before. But generally we can say in the 21st century, people's lives in big cities are very hectic, very busy. And it is a juggling act to try to balance all these aspects of your life. If you have children, you have a partner, you have parents, you have to look after grandparents, you have to look after a job and responsibility or study and responsibilities for study. There's a lot to have to juggle on one plate, right? So meditation will help you to be able to do that, because a stable mind is a clear benefit in that situation. A clear mind means you have more perspective. And you can see what are the priorities. You can see where you should put your attention and your energy. But so the idea is like this: Shine meditation, achieving Shine meditation. Often people feel there is a gap. They feel there's a huge gap. They feel that to be a meditator, you need to go to the countryside, you need to go to a cave, you need to go to a monastery, you need to become a monk or a nun, you need to give up everything and turn your back on life and just sort of focus purely on meditation. Now that is not the case. I mean, if you can do all of that, wonderful. But the fact is, you have to look after your children, you have to look after your family, your parents, your grandparents, your life. You need an income, you need a roof over your head, you need some food to eat, right? So unless we can live on nettles like Milarepa living in the caves, then we have to accept that we need to make it work in our current situation in the 21st century, living in London or living wherever you are, living in a big city, or if you're living in a country, you may still have a busy life. What I mean by living in the city is all of the sensual impressions you have, if you live in a city, we are in a very material society where you are bombarded by advertisements to, you need this, you need that, you must do this, you must do that. Or social media. Maybe the social media, people who are spending a lot of time on social media, is like living in the city. So even if you're actually living in a very quiet place, if you're busy on social media, you're also constantly bombarded with all these comparisons and all these sort of ways of stimulating the mind that makes us feel that we must have this. We like creating desires, creating comparisons, creating attachment and aversion. So how to bridge that gap? That's what we are looking at, how to bridge that gap between what we call our busy daily lives and this goal of taming our mind and developing inner tranquility and stability, mental stability. So we tend to feel there is a gap. And there is a gap as long as our mind is untamed. But so the idea is also that once you come closer and become more skillful in taming your mind, that gap becomes shorter and shorter. You don't feel that you have one foot in one world, one foot in samsara, one foot in the spiritual world. And this gap, you can't really, you're stretching like this and you're about to fall into that chasm between. You don't need to feel like that. The more skillful you become, then you see that everything can become a part of your focus and a part of your sort of meditation practice, a way for you to develop mindfulness. So let's hope we can look at some of that today. So just to briefly summarize, what are the helpful ways of bridging that gap? So the summary, and then we'll go into it a little bit more. It says, a suitable environment, and now I've just told you that the city is maybe not a suitable environment. Social media is not a suitable environment. It's a challenging environment. So here we go, suitable environment. What does it mean to have a suitable environment? We can try our very best to create a suitable environment. So first we need to know what makes a suitable environment, and then we can make changes if possible, okay? So we'll look at that. And when we say suitable environment, of course, that also means our work environment, our family environment, our spiritual environment, our meditation environment. All of these will affect our mind. So we're not purely talking about the time when we sit on our meditation cushion for a short period of time every day. We need to really try and merge our meditation and our daily life, because that's what meditation is all about. It's about daily life. If it cannot help us in daily life, when can it help us? Because daily life is what we experience all the time. This is where we're at now. It's exactly where the meditation will help you. So we will look at the environment. Suitable environment means outer, inner environment. We look at another aspect that is important is contentment, developing contentment. So not to have an overstimulated mind that is full of, meaning stimulating our sort of desires, in the sense that we feel we don't have enough. We feel we don't have what we need. We need other things. We need more. We need better. We need more quantity, more quality. We need, it's like unfulfilled desire. Unfulfilled desire is an obstacle to our contentment and peace of mind. And then we look at, you could say, ethics or ethical discipline, non-harming of body, speech, and mind. Because if we're trying to develop mental stability, we also need to look at our actions and our speech and our mind. Our mind is what stimulates and is a source of our speech and our actions, but we cannot expect to have a stable and peaceful and calm and content mind if we are very engaged in negative actions, because negative actions hurts ourselves and hurts others. When we hurt others, we hurt ourselves at the same time. So we need, it's kind of part of our motivation that we say for meditation. It's very important that you look at your motivation, why you're doing it and what you're doing it for. It's not just for yourself, it's for you, it's for your own benefit initially. Very, very first, we are the first benefactor. But as we benefit and as we develop a more calm mind and we become more skillful to deal with day-to-day situations, that means that those around us will benefit. We will get less angry, less irritated, less annoyed, and less sort of impatient. We will become less dissatisfied. We will be less agitated. So those around us, your family, your children, your parents, your grandparents, whoever, your partners, your colleagues, even your boss might benefit, because we become more flexible in our mind. We become more adaptable, and we are causing less harm for ourselves and others, right? So ethical discipline, some form of discipline, we all need some form of discipline. But it's looking at that understanding of what is harmful and what is negative, both for ourselves and others. And then mindfulness. Mindfulness is, of course, a huge aspect of training our mind and meditation. Mindfulness, being aware, developing presence of mind. Okay, so we will look at those things today. So we look at the environment, okay? How to create the best conditions for our meditation, for our Dharma practice, for our taming the mind, for ourselves, and then as an extension of that for others. We look at the outer environment. Outer environment. So there in the Buddhist texts, we are told what creates a good environment. So when I tell you this, you should put that into what do you call it, perspective of your own life. Now these texts were written hundreds of years ago, maybe for yogis and meditators and monks and nuns, who knows, but for practitioners in general. But what it means also that in all your aspects of life, there are certain things that will help us to have a more peaceful mind. And one thing is safety. Safety. So let's just think, okay, this is for our meditation session, first of all. We want to sit in a place where we can feel at peace. So safety could mean if you're in a cave in the mountains, yes, you want to be somewhere where you don't feel that you're going to be attacked by anyone. You're going to be, anyone is suddenly going to sort of, like, whether it's people or dangerous animals. It could be dangerous animals in the mountains, but in our case, maybe that's not the situation. And maybe it's also not thieves and robbers or people who are going to hurt us. But we have to think a hostile environment to translate it into your own life. You don't want to sit and meditate in a hostile environment because you cannot feel at peace or at ease. You need to create an environment that feels you, where you can sort of sit and feel, yeah. You don't have to worry about telephones, you don't have to worry about noise, you don't have to worry about people suddenly bursting in on you in the middle of your session, and or people around you that you live with feeling that what you are doing is not a good thing. That's also a hostile environment. So that sense is something you need to look at in your own life. Of course, that's also why we have Dharma centers in the middle of the city, because you can go to a Buddhist center, to a meditation place and meditation center that is created with that in mind, with all these things in mind. So when you go to those places to meditate, you feel right away the ambience of that place is supporting your meditation. So at home, ideally, you should try and create a little space where you can sit, where you have a little meditation cushion or a little corner of a room, or in your anywhere in your home where you can feel undisturbed, undistracted, not surrounded by a lot of other things that will pull you away from meditation. Where it is reasonably quiet. So that's also what we look for in meditation, because if we are bombarded by noise, then it makes it harder to settle your mind. So not lots of distractions, conversations, hustle and bustle. Then if you have that, then you aim for that. Then, of course, if we're doing longer meditation, or such as retreats, we should be in a place where we have sustenance, we have food, we have drink, we have a roof over our head, and we don't have to spend a lot of time worrying about those things. We don't spend lots of time thinking about food and cooking and shopping and all of that, but so all these things are generally recommended. Then when we talk about also like the Buddhist environment or Dharma center, or if you went to a retreat, we say a place that has been blessed by great masters or great activity in those areas. So where great masters have taught, given teachings, given empowerments, given blessings, all the activities have been a sort of blessing for the land and for the place. So in Samye, for example, you have the big monastery. Here in London, you have our Dharma center, His Holiness Karmapa, Akong Rinpoche, Lama Yeshe, Khenpo Sodajik. Many great masters have actually visited in both places. And in Samye, His Holiness the 16th Karmapa also visited and left a footprint on a big rock that is there in Samye. So there's all of these places together make it a holy place, a very blessed place where when you go there, you feel the impact of that. So again, you may not have that at home, but you should try and, to the best of your ability, create a place where you can sit on a daily basis and feel at peace to meditate, feel less distracted. And of course, in terms of your work environment, that will also affect your ability to meditate. If you're in a hostile environment at work with people you don't feel at ease with, you don't feel at ease in the place, you don't feel at ease with your work, then if it's a difficult environment, your level of contentment will be affected, and it may also affect your day-to-day well-being. So we need to balance all these things as best as we can. I mean, when I say as best as we can, it means that we should make peace with reality as well. We may not have the perfect environment, but we do our best, and then we take whatever challenges are there in terms of noise, etc. We use them as part of our practice. Now here we have Also, we're in the middle of London, so we cannot avoid noise. We've had a building site next door to us for the last year and a half. We have Sainsbury's trolleys on the other side of the building. So we do have our share of noise here, but I think we still manage to maintain our practice and maybe make that part of our like a challenge. It's our challenge. Sometimes it can be good to have a challenge. So outer environment, then a suitable inner environment to have good conditions for practice. This is that idea of contentment. To be content with what we have. So make peace with reality. Don't feel that, oh, because I have a noisy neighbor, I cannot meditate. Don't say, you don't need to think like that. I mean, if you really have a terrible neighbor, yes, you should do your best. Maybe you should move if your neighbor cannot come around and if there are serious issues. But I'm talking about basic, simple things. So you don't need to worry too much if it is not perfect. Just try and make peace with your situation and be content and see the positive things in your own situation. So develop this contentment. Say, what I have is, I'm so fortunate to have what I have. I'm so fortunate to be here. I'm so fortunate to have, these teachings, be able to practice, be inspired and be encouraged and have interest in practice. So I should feel good about that, feel positive, feel satisfied with our life, also in the material levels of food and clothing and stuff, that we don't always need to think that we have to have more, have to have better, because that is a state of dissatisfaction. We're always chasing something else. So interest, inspiration in practice is important, and also having a recognition of impermanence and how things are always changing around us, that this is a fact of life. Things are always changing, so we cannot really create a permanent, perfect situation. It might be perfect part of the time, but then that will change. Something else will come along. So developing a level of flexibility is also very good. And then discipline. Discipline in terms of when you practice, it's good to have a discipline, it's good to have a daily framework, to have a daily practice, to set yourself a time when you can meditate, whatever that time is best for you. But you should not be uptight about it. Don't become too rigid. Be kind to yourself in your meditation practice, but don't be sloppy either. Don't become lazy. Don't allow yourself to go astray. We know when that happens. So a certain element of discipline and awareness, and not to be judgmental about yourself, not to be judgmental about other people. And then as part of this discipline and ethics, you could say, be aware of how you live your life, your actions, because all our actions affect others. Our actions affect ourselves, our speech affects others and ourselves. Because when we are negative, it expresses itself in our speech, and it makes things worse. So we also suffer, others suffer, and we suffer. And our actions in terms of, normally we say in Buddhism that they are supported by the precepts. But whether people are Buddhists or not, I also told you before, you don't have to be a Buddhist to meditate, but ethics are not particularly about religion. Ethics are about having a compass, a moral compass that shows us what is right and what is wrong, what causes harm and what causes suffering. And generally we can say that what causes harm, it also causes unhappiness, both for ourselves and others. And what causes happiness is positive actions. So avoiding negative actions, harmful actions, avoiding what causes harm to other people. Basic precepts is like killing and stealing and lying and misconduct in all areas, physical actions. This is the kind of discipline that is mentioned here, ethics and discipline, that we try not to harm the environment. There's so much recognition about how our actions affect the environment, how this affects and causes harm for other beings. So this is actually, when we talk about meditation, we think it just means sitting on our cushion for 20 minutes a day, but that's not at all enough. That won't really benefit you very much. You need to incorporate it in your day-to-day life and your actions and your way of thinking, and to try and see how it all links together. It is all interconnected. So then we also talked about mindfulness, right? Mindfulness was one of these. The last topic that we say to support and bridge that gap of meditation, we need to be mindful as much as we can. We're trying to be mindful when we meditate. We're training in mindfulness. We're training to be aware. We're just resting our attention on the breathing, trying to be mindful of our breath, right? Stay in the present with our breath. But we need to carry that mindfulness into our everyday activities, into the rest of the day, into as much of our 24 hours as we can. So I usually say to people, we sleep 8 hours a day. Maybe I told you last time, I don't remember, we sleep 8 hours a day, but then the other 16 hours, what do we do for 16 hours? Now our aim, our goal should be that we are mindful for those other 16 hours. We are mindful where our body is, our mind is. We try to be mindful and be present and apply ourselves to whatever our activities are. Be fully aware and be present, and don't get carried away with negativity, being judgmental or negative or angry or grasping, jealousy or ignorance, just sort of becoming sloppy, becoming lazy. So this is where we need to integrate all of this into those 16 hours. Some people try into 24 hours if they apply themselves when they are dreaming and sleeping. You know, there's also ways of doing that. So the more we can integrate that in our life, the more benefit we will have, the more clarity of mind we will have, and the more capable we will be to deal with all of the ups and downs of life that we cannot control. We can just control our reactions to them, how we manage all these different life challenges. The more stability we have, the more clarity we have, the more mindfulness and awareness we have, the more present we are, the easier it will be for us to balance all of that and to be okay with that. It's like being on a surfboard in a storm. We may be in the beginning, we can be on a surfboard on a very, very calm sea. You know, in the beginning we can't even stand up on a surfboard, I think. Just lie down and hold on, right? Maybe that's how you start. Then you learn to stand up and balance even when there's no waves. And then you learn to balance even when there are little waves. You can still stay on the board. In the beginning you'll get thrown off if there's a massive wave coming your way. But then with training and with practice, we can stay on that surfboard, even in those huge waves. You see how surfers, they can go under the wave, they can go up and they can go down. So it's like, you could say, in life, in daily life, we need to become similar to that surfer. Because there will be days where the sea is calm, and there will be days where there are medium waves, and there will be days and times where there are rough seas. And so obviously if we learn to balance, we learn to, with this mindfulness and awareness and taming or gaining inner stability and clarity, then the more we have of that, the more capable we are to steer our way through all these different situations that arise. There's loss and there's gain. You know, we have to deal with sickness, we have to deal with death and loss of loved ones, we have to deal with financial issues and ups and downs, we have to deal with the COVID situation, we have to deal with whatever we can do to make our lives for ourselves and for all those you are responsible for, your loved ones, those around you, to make it safe and secure and healthy and well and happy. That's what everybody wants. So the better surfer you are, the more benefit you will feel, and the more you will be able to bridge that gap in your life between your busy day-to-day activities and your quiet meditation session. Your quiet meditation session is where you need that. You need to sit in order to become better and better. Like sitting on your cushion, it's a little bit like learning to balance on the board on a very, very calm water. Learning to stay on your board. Even actually when we sit on our meditation cushion, we can see that we do get thrown off. Even when there's no waves, we can't keep our balance in the very beginning. Even when there's no waves, we are caught up in just sitting with nothing happening. We still can get uptight. We still can sit on a meditation cushion and become sad and depressed, even if we weren't when we started, or we can become angry, even if we weren't when we started, because we have no mindfulness, no control. We start thinking about this and this and this and this happened, and we get upset about what happened. We bring it back and we bring it up, and we are kind of whipping up a storm ourselves on the meditation cushion. So slowly, 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 we need to stay on the board, okay? Like it's also, as an example, it said that when there's a very strong winds on the ocean, it whips up all these massive waves. But if you are in a big sea liner, what do you call them? Those massive ships, that won't get pushed over. So you have to become like, maybe not even a surfer, but like a captain on that big ship. That's our aim. So like when our mind is focused and settled, then all these different movements of thought, the waves are like the movements of thought. They don't push you over, you don't get caught up in them. So somebody actually asked a question about that. Maybe it's a good time to answer it. So this person said, I have been battling with unwanted thoughts for the last 3 years. And my thoughts have been controlling my life in a bad way. I've just restarted meditation to control them. However, during meditation, my thoughts are more wild than ever, making up stupid stories. How do you control those thoughts while meditating, and how long does it take to come to a peaceful state? So, I want to mention this because this is really important. Now, the question implies that you are really trying very hard to control and to fight with your thoughts. And that is a problem, that creates a problem. It's almost like we are whipping up more thoughts by doing that. In meditation, you should not be fighting your thoughts. You are not, the thoughts are not your enemy as such, but fighting with them is the enemy. I mean, in one way you could say, yes, sometimes thoughts are, depending how we look at it. But what I want to make sure you understand is that we should not be fighting thoughts. What we need to learn to see is that there's nothing there to fight in the first place. We need to see that thoughts are insubstantial. So if you try to fight with thoughts, you're like somebody trying to do, what do you call it, like shadow boxing. Shadow boxing is like you see an enemy on the wall. There's like in the sunshine, and you see a shadow on the wall. It looks like there's somebody is about to attack you, but actually it's your own shadow. There's no one there to fight. So if we try to fight, you might end up smashing your hand on the wall, thinking there's somebody there to fight with this. There's nothing really there to fight. What we need to do in meditation is learn to let go. Learn to let thoughts go. Our problem arises from like relating to thoughts as something solid, something real, something powerful. And they are powerful, but that's because we give them power. We feed them, like feeding a fire. So your job, your duty and your job in meditation is just sitting there with your breath, and thoughts will arise. And that's fine, and you let them come and you let them go, but you stay with the breath. If you stay with the breath, your thoughts will just dissolve. They only stay and multiply when you allow them to, when you feed them, when you forget about the breath and you go on to give this shadow on the wall, you give it attention and say, oh, what's that? There's somebody there, there's something going on, and all sorts of feelings that arise from that. So you need to learn, or you need to relate differently to your thoughts, not identify with your thoughts. So here you're talking very much, whoever asked this question, it's talking very much about controlling thoughts. We are not trying to control thoughts in meditation. You're just allowing them to dissolve, to come and go. So another image I can give you is that when you're meditating, it's like you're sitting near a stream, a little, river, a stream, and this is like your stream of thoughts. So that stream doesn't dry up necessarily when you're meditating. It will flow on, and in the beginning it might be very wild stream actually. They say it's in the beginning it's like a waterfall. And slowly as you meditate it becomes more and more calm as it flows down. But what is important when you sit near that stream is that you don't sit too close and not too far away. Too close means that you get onto the edge and you fall into the water and you get carried away by the thoughts, by the river. Too far away means that you're not giving enough attention. You're too far away, so you're not actually paying attention. You need to sit in between, meaning that your attention has to be strong enough to, you can hear the sound, so maybe I'm getting you more confused with these examples, I don't know, but the idea is that you are sitting, your awareness is strong enough, you can hear the thoughts trickling by, but you don't get carried away by them. So it's not that thoughts, that you have to control them, you don't have to fight them, you don't have to do anything, just let them flow, let that river flow. But you are close, you are in a position where you can still stay with the breath or with the object of your meditation. Staying with your breath means you're sitting in the right place. You're sitting in the place where the river's flowing, look, 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 you can hear the water running. It's like your thoughts might still be there. There's a little trickle of thoughts in the back of your mind possibly, but it's not strong enough for you to lose awareness of your breath. You're still staying present. You're still present. You're still in the moment. Okay? So that's fine. Those thoughts are fine because they're not so powerful that they pull you away from the present moment. So those thoughts that pull you away, that's where you need to be aware. So when you get so carried away that you are completely busy with a memory of the past or some thought about the future and you've forgotten about the object of meditation. So I hope that clarifies it. It's not about controlling your thoughts, it's about letting them go, letting them flow, but staying present, staying with the object. So sometimes if I give you too many examples, you might get mixed up. I don't know. But so what else were we going to talk about? We had. I have on my note here. So we have the outer and inner environment. We talked about that. Focus on the breath. We should do a little session. And then we had outer and inner object, walking meditation, agitation, and drowsiness. We have a lot to cover in a short time. So just briefly, because mostly what you'll be doing is meditation with the breathing. But what I said is like, anything can be an object of your mindfulness and awareness. So you could meditate with sound, you could meditate with a little object in front of you, a stone or a pebble. So all of that is possible. Anything can become an object of meditation. But generally when we meet here at the center, and when people do what they call Shine meditation, it's mostly is the breathing, because it is so straightforward. Your breath is there, you're sitting, you don't need any other object. But if one feels uptight about sounds, etc., it's possible to make sound part of your awareness and your mindfulness also. Then in terms of an inner object, when we say meditation with an inner object, this is also called visualization, visualizing or imagining. You can call it imagining, but it's very disciplined. There's very clear instructions of how to visualize, what to imagine. And this often goes with more Buddhist practices, with for example, the practices we do in the evenings here, the medicine Buddha puja, medicine Buddha chanting and mantra recitation, and the Chenrezig chanting and mantra recitation. That is accompanied with visualization. So you could say that is also Shine with an inner object. Because as you recite the mantra, you are imagining maybe lights radiating out, or loving kindness radiating out to all beings. You're focusing on loving kindness and compassion, or medicine Buddha, also loving kindness and compassion and healing for all those who are ill. So there's many different ways and methods of meditation, but all of them are also methods to develop inner stability, mental stability, clarity, and then along with other qualities. So we can't go into that in detail today, but just so that you have that basic idea and understanding. And then walking meditation, I want to mention that because sometimes if you are going to visit here, at the moment when we are open on Wednesday and Saturday afternoons, we do a meditation session, and sometimes we do walking meditation, especially if it's raining or too cold to have a break outside. Then we do walking meditation instead. And that idea is you bring mindfulness into movement. So you walk very slowly and mindfully, and your attention is with your physical movement, and not to have we're so used to having a drive. We need to do something, we need to go from A to B, we need to be somewhere else. Instead of being in the present, we are pushing ourselves. So in walking meditation, it's about just being with these physical movements and being in that environment where you're walking. It's not as one-pointedly focused as when you are sitting. You are aware of the environment you're walking within. But it's also helpful to learn to bring awareness into our physical movement. So walking meditation is also quite common. It's less common in the Tibetan tradition, but in many places you do that. And then the last thing to cover is, when we say, so the difficulties that most people experience in meditation is agitation and drowsiness. So those are what everybody goes through at some point or another. Agitation, where our mind is very wild. We are over-agitated. Of course, we are thinking, we need mental activity. We don't want to become empty-headed robots, right? That's not the focus or point of meditation. We need to have clarity, intelligence, etc. But over-agitated mind is when it's like we're out of control. Our mental activity is out of control, and so it's very hard for the mind to settle on an object. What we can do at that time is bring relaxation in to our physical posture. We should look down, and even maybe closing our eyes is helpful. Sort of bringing relaxation, general relaxation in deep down, because when we are over-agitated, our mind is grasping at thoughts. I mean, the reason we're over agitated could be for many different reasons. It could be how we slept last night, what we ate. It could be we've eaten wrong foods. It could be different situations in our life happening, so it could be external situations. In any case, try and look at what brings on that over agitation and try and relax that aspect and tame that aspect. Usually we have a strong inner feeling of uptightness or grasping, so try and bring inner relaxation as well as physical relaxation. And then if this is a common thing for you, then it's said that warmth, physical warmth, is good for you when you meditate. Wear more warm clothes and eat heavier foods. It also helps to stabilize the mind, the kind of food we eat, so the environment we are in, and then relaxing your posture and your gaze. And the opposite is the case for when we say dullness and drowsiness. Sometimes we become so sleepy, it's like a wave of sleepiness coming over us the minute we sit down. Then we should do the opposite, focus on our posture, definitely very straight back. And also we should look up, look higher up. And try and inspire ourselves for practice and awaken this sort of inspiration for practice. And then also set cold environment, coolness, so wear less clothes, light clothes, and you can open the windows and eat lighter food. Don't meditate right after you've been eating, for example, then you will be drowsy. So those are things you should become aware of. Try and pay attention to that and to know what is your most common difficulty you experience, and then you can try and apply those remedies. So I think we've done enough for today. We just have time for a short meditation session, and then I was going to say to you today. Last time we just focused on the chest rising and falling. So today we will focus on the tip, just where you feel. Maybe the upper part of your lip or the tip of your nose, where you feel the movement of the air with your breath. So it's more subtle. The chest rising and falling is more easy to notice, but this is a more subtle attention you need to pay here. So please put yourselves in meditation posture. Sit with a straight back and then bring your attention so your breathing is natural. You can start first, if it helps you, start noticing your breath on your chest rising and falling, but then bring it up to where you just notice that little whiff of air and try and keep your attention there. So that's how we will meditate for the next 5 minutes until I ring the gong. So before we finish, I remember there was one other question, and I think somebody emailed to ask, what does it mean to solidify the present? And it's quite simple. It just means we're thinking about the present rather than engaging with the present. So being busy thinking about what is happening in the present, or evaluating or judging the present. It's that idea. So, like when we say don't hold on to the past, don't invite the future, don't solidify the present, means we might be sitting in meditation and feeling that, well, we're not engaging with the past, or we're not busy thinking about the future, but we are not really either fully engaging in the present. We're not fully with our breath, for example. We don't have much clarity of mind. It's that idea. So then I wish you all a very good meditation practice. I hope it was helpful for you, and I hope that you will be able in the future to also learn more and do more courses, because that is helpful. But at least it gives you a little bit of a beginning, and feel free to join us whenever you can. And yes, that's it. Then have a very good weekend, and all the best for your meditation practice. It's wonderful that you want to learn to meditate, and I'm very sure it will help you if you continue with it. So we will now do the dedication. Okay. Arsanam deye tamche sipane topne nyepe danam pamchene chegana je balab tupaye sepe sole dowa dolwa